Gina Hopkins and Joshua Sparks were thrown into every parent's worst nightmare when they were falsely accused of child abuse and had their newborn baby taken away from them for 5 months. The couple were arrested on suspicion of actual bodily harm, had son Teddy and Gina's daughter Amelia, 6, taken into foster care and were banned from having any contact with children under the age of 16 after a social worker spotted bruises on Teddy's face. It later emerged that the bruises were actually caused by a genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, which both Teddy, Gina and her brother have. The condition manifests itself as stretchy, fragile skin which bruises easily. But despite eventually being cleared, Gina and Joshua said they'll never get over missing the first 5 months of their beloved son's life. "We missed the best bit, that you want to bond with them. I missed out on it and it was hard," Gina told This Morning on Tuesday. And Joshua admitted that after 5 months apart, they had no idea about their little one's routine because someone else had been looking after him. The couple first suspected something was wrong when Teddy appeared to be bruised after the delivery, despite the fact it wasn't a forceps birth. When he was born he was covered, his face, his arms, his elbows. "My mum mentioned it and they said it's normal," Gina told hosts Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield. The bruises eventually healed apart from 2 on Teddy's cheeks, which refused to budge. And when a health visitor noticed them during a routine appointment, she immediately called police and social services. She walked out the room, said "I've got to do some phone calls," and she come back saying, "I've had to call social services and the police and I've got to take him to the doctors," Gina recalled. "I was shocked thinking, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what they're thinking." A thorough examination by the doctor revealed that Teddy was otherwise fit and healthy and Gina was told to go home and wait to be visited by a social worker and police officer. But instead of 2 people, she said her house was swarmed by a group of between 5 and 7. "I got arrested there and then," she said. Joshua accompanied their son to hospital, where he was then also arrested on suspicion of ABH. And heartbroken Gina said her protestations of innocence repeatedly fell on deaf ears and her children were placed in emergency foster care. A breakthrough finally came when Gina's mum Pauline reminded her that her brother had been diagnosed with EDS, meaning Teddy could also have the genetic disorder. Gina's lawyers convinced the judge to hear new evidence, and a positive diagnosis was confirmed on Christmas Eve 2016. It was later found that he acquired the bruises as his mum supported his floppy head with her hand whilst winding him after his feeds. It took a further 4 weeks for the case against them to be dropped and their children returned. And while Gina doesn't blame social services for being cautious, she believes it should reconsider its approach. "I think 100% they should do their job and I don't blame them for doing that. I just think there's a way to go about it. They're causing us grief," she said. Social worker Joanna Nicholas also appeared on the show and said the department has no choice but to take every suspicion seriously. "The reality is that the time in your whole life when you're most likely to be killed is when you're aged under 1. And bruising in non-mobile babies should always be seen in the light of being abuse. And that's the reality we're dealing with," she said. "Nothing can take away what happened to this couple, but that's the reality, that's what we see again and again and again."